This section dealing with the age of the Earth and the universe poses an interesting question. Could the Earth be just thousands of years old, despite an overwhelming attempt to convince us to believe otherwise? Let's take a look at some of the evidence that points to an Earth of just thousands of years old. Have you ever wondered? If the Grand Canyon formed over millions or billions of years, then why are there not similar canyons formed everywhere by the same process? Was the Grand Canyon formed by catastrophe, or was it formed by millions or billions of years of erosion? Let's look at some of the evidence. If Grand Canyon sediments were laid down over millions or billions of years, then why is there no evidence of erosion between the layers? Layers of sediment containing billions of fossils with no signs of erosion is what we expect from a global flood, not millions or billions of years. The Grand Canyon topography shows three massive lake basins at its head: Hopi, Canyonlands, and vernal lakes. These basins may well be the result of receding global floodwaters. Recently, Mount St. Helens, Spirit Lake and the Missoula Lake floodwaters demonstrate how catastrophic rapidly flowing floodwaters from a breach can carve out vast canyons in their path. Have you ever wondered? What is the evidence for the Grand Canyon being formed by catastrophe, and not over millions or billions of years of gradual erosion? Mount St. Helens is a recent example of catastrophe, not millions of years, carving out canyons. On May 8, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington from a 5.1 earthquake. The eruption blew out the side of the mountain. Large areas were covered by ash. Ensuing eruptions formed fine layers in just hours. Within days, green forests were turned to badlands. Spirit Lake, at the base of the mountain, was covered in trees and other debris. On June 10, mud flows from a breach in the lake cut 100 feet deep zigzag canyons in the terrain below, complete with perpendicular side canyons in soft sand and mud. These canyons are similar to the Grand Canyon, but 1/40th the size. Mud flows over the next 10 years cut hundreds of feet deep into solid rock in mere days of cutting time. The movement of the log mass that had formed on the surface of Spirit Lake stripped the bark away and formed up to 3 feet of bark peat at the bottom of the lake. Floating trees became waterlogged and sunk vertically to the bottom of the lake, where they were buried within a decade. There is already evidence of coal forming in the layers of peat. This resembles the trees in Yellowstone's fossil forest, which were also buried in ash. Observing the recent processes of Mount St. Helens provides a great deal of insight into the non-evolutionary explanations for the natural environment we observe today. Have you ever wondered? If life evolved slowly over millions of years, why are there not millions of undisputed transitional fossils existing today? Even Darwin openly stated his doubts. Why, if species have descended from other species by fine gradations, do we not see everywhere innumerable transitional forms? Others agree. On May 20, 1982, the New Scientist magazine reported, "The main problem in reconstructing the origins of man is lack of fossil evidence. All there is could be displayed on a dinner table." On November 7, 1977, Time magazine reported, "Scientists can see that their most cherished theories are based on embarrassingly few fossil fragments and that huge gaps exist in the fossil record." More than a century and a half after Darwin's Origin of Species, and despite millions of fossil discoveries, the transitional fossils are still missing. Have you ever wondered? Why doesn't the fossil record show the gradual change evolutionists claim? In 2001, staunch evolutionist Ernst Mayr said, "Given the fact of evolution, one would expect the fossils to document a gradual steady change from one ancestral form to the descendants. But this is not what the paleontologist finds. Instead, he or she finds gaps in just about every phyletic series. New types often appear quite suddenly, and their immediate ancestors are absent in the geological strata. The discovery of unbroken series of species changing gradually into descending species is very rare. Indeed, the fossil record is one of discontinuities, seemingly documenting jumps, saltations, from one type of organism to a different type. This raises a puzzling question. Why does the fossil record fail to reflect the gradual change one would expect from evolution? Here are just a few reasons to question evolution theory. 1. There are no agreed-on transitional fossils confirming evolutionary origins. 2. Evolution theory reeks of deception. Piltdown man, Nebraska man, Java man, Ramapithecus, Lucy, Peking man, Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthal man. 3. Trilobites claimed to be an early life form, have eyes more complex than humans. 4. Grand Canyon. Contrary to evolutionists' expectation, fossils deemed to be from the earliest evolutionary period are found in the Grand Canyon's top layers, consistent with what we expect from a worldwide flood. 5. Dinosaur bones have been found with soft tissue containing carbon-14, indicating a very young age. 6. Rapid burial is needed to fossilize. Billions of fossils are buried in sedimentary layers all over the world. Billions of marine fossils like nautiloids are buried with amphibians in Arizona. All this points to a worldwide flood. 7. Polystrate fossils cut across many geological layers in Yellowstone National Park, Ginkgo Petrified Forest State Park, Joggins, Nova Scotia points to rapid burial similar to what occurred from the Mount St. Helens catastrophe. Have you ever wondered about the accuracy and assumptions of the radiocarbon dating method used to date plants and animals? Here are the stages of carbon-14 formation. C14 is continually made in the atmosphere by cosmic radiation colliding with nitrogen, N14. C14 atoms combine with oxygen to form CO2, then gets absorbed by vegetation and animal life. Upon death, C14 is no longer absorbed, and has a half-life of 5,730 years. By measuring the amount of C14 in a fossil, it provides an estimate of age. Here are the unknown assumptions made in the process. Atmospheric ratio of C14 to C12 has always been constant. Changes in strength of the magnetic field had little effect on C14. There was no flood, or no flood effect, on the levels of C14. The rate of decay of C14 remains constant over time. The cosmic ray penetration rate of the atmosphere is constant. C14 dating error. In 1949, Dr. Willard Libby, the founder of carbon-14 dating, preformed tests that assumed C14 levels in the atmosphere were both constant and in equilibrium. To reach equilibrium from a starting point of 0 should take 30,000 years. Libby's experiment showed the atmosphere was almost 25% out of equilibrium. Believing in billions of years, Libby chalked it up to a calculation error and moved on. In the 1960s, other scientists repeated Libby's experiment, and confirmed his original calculations were correct. Recently, scientists have determined that C14 is being produced at a 25% higher rate than it's consumed in the atmosphere. Libby's assumptions had significantly exaggerate the radiocarbon age dating for plants and animals. The new data suggests that life on Earth is thousands, not millions, of years old. For over 40 years this evidence has been ignored in our classrooms because it does not confirm long-age evolution proponents. Have you ever wondered why, if C14, carbon-14, is undetectable after thousands, not millions of years, do we find C14 in all samples of coal, diamonds and even dinosaur bones? Let's look at some of the factors that can affect the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. Variations in cosmic ray penetration of the Earth's atmosphere. Carbon-14, for instance, is created when cosmic rays interact with atoms of nitrogen. The strength of Earth's magnetic field, which protects our atmosphere, varies over time. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. The Genesis flood buried vast quantities of carbon from living organisms forming coal and oil. The buried carbon today is about 100 times the total carbon currently in the biosphere. Industrial revolution, forest fires and modern-day technology are all factors as well. The degree of accuracy required in measuring one atom of C14 in 1 trillion atoms of C12 should not go unnoticed. A ratio of just 2 or 3 atoms in a trillion would put things in a totally different perspective. Have you ever wondered, how can statements claiming to be factual be built on assumptions? Radioisotope dating is one method used for dating metamorphic and igneous rocks. Rocks formed from lava flows is one example. The assumptions of radioisotope dating are: the starting amount of daughter element is assumed to be 0. All daughter element present in tested rock is assumed to be from radioactive decay. Samples are assumed to have been in a closed environment with no forces acting upon them. For example, a worldwide flood. The decay rate is assumed to have always been constant. You should know that the vast majority of dating methods point to an Earth of thousands, not billions of years. Have you ever wondered, what are some of the evidences for an Earth of thousands of years old? Coal samples from all over the United States still retain C14. Diamonds contain C14. Magnetic field, Earth's magnetic field is decaying too rapidly for an old Earth. Helium migrates out of granite easily. There should be no helium left under the evolutionary hypothesis. The helium in granite suggests an Earth of thousands, not millions of years. Comets, rapid disintegration of comets suggest a young Earth. Carbon-14 equilibrium, the C14/C12 ratio in the atmosphere is about 25% out of balance, which points to a young Earth, not an ancient Earth. Have you ever wondered, how can long-age dating methods produce ages of millions or billions of years when the actual dates are known to be recent? The following are dates given to rocks of known ages using current secular dating methods. Hualalai basalt, Hawaii, potassium argon date 1.4 to 22 million years, actual date 1801. Mount Etna basalt, Sicily, potassium argon date 140,000 to 350,000 years, actual date 1972. Mount St. Helens, potassium argon date 2.8 million years, actual date 1980. Sunset Crater, northern Arizona, potassium argon date 200,000 plus years, actual date 1065. Mount Ngoho, New Zealand lava flow, potassium argon date is 275,000 years, the actual dates were from the following years: 1949, 1954 and 1975. Grand Canyon, Precambrian layer at bottom dated by RBSRSOC age of 1070 million years, top layer produced age of 1340 million years. Rocks 300 million years older at the top. The same rocks tested twice or tested using different methods too often produce significant variation dates. If the dates are not right when we know the age of the rocks, how can we be sure they are correct when we don't know the exact age of the rocks?